Good evening and welcome to the Paranormal Lens podcast presented by Jotnex Paranormal. I'm Chad, that's Jamie, and Kirstin is right up there. How are you guys doing tonight? Good.
Well, great. First of all, the answer is great.
That's good.
But we chuckle with that because every time what y'all don't see is the behind the scenes before we even get started is the bit of chaos that always ensues of something not working the way it's supposed to or running up the way it's supposed to, and all of a sudden here we are and like, okay, go, and it all works. So yay!
Oh, you just jinxed us, Jamie.
It's like a delayed Christmas miracle.
Well, and usually one of us is having audio problems. I mean, not always. There's been other people too.
I have link problems.
So
Activity problems, all the stuff. So
yeah, we're getting there. We'll get it all worked out, but we're happy to be here. Happy to have some people joining us tonight. So, how was your week? Let's go there. See, that was better.
My week was pretty good. I mean, this is kind of fun having like Cassie's first Christmas and stuff. So that's always fun. She's really enjoying her brand new jumper.
I saw pictures. It looked really cool.
Yeah, she likes to jump to the tune of Bluey.
Right now it's in my head.
Good. It should be.
Jamie, what about you?
Well, yeah, Christmas happened a couple times, as it goes with family, it has to happen. Logistics and schedules and all that stuff. I think everybody got the correct gift. No one complained. When boxes just start showing up and you're trying to remember what's what and where, I think it all worked out right. Or at least there was grace to not tell me right away. The more important part is that everybody's spending time together, and the enjoyment of downtime away from the bustle of our lives. The calmness that it brings, even if it's chaos in the moment of paper flying and all this stuff. And, and everyone enjoyed a meal, and just got to relax a little bit. So as I'm aging, that's what I appreciate the most, I think.
Yep.
Like it used to, because the bustle happens, and we know that.
Yeah.
All the stuff that leads up to it, but being able to slow down and enjoy the moment, I think is probably my favorite part.
You were talking about getting the right gifts. What you may not have known is Ben comes to some of your Christmas because of the family ties and stuff.
Oh, I do know that, actually.
You knew that, but Ben got here last Saturday because he was celebrating at my dad's house. So so he's been here, and not all the gifts that he had ordered were going to come in time. So he had them shipped to his brother's house, or so he thought.
Right. I've heard this story.
Oh, you did hear this? Yeah. So he accidentally put Alex's old address down, and then was not sure how he was going to get the gifts. And there was this whole kerfluffle of when they might actually get here. It all worked out. They got here on time. The gifts were sitting outside, so all he had to do was go pick them up and talk to Alex's old neighbor, which was a good thing. And so it all worked out. But it was funny that it was just another bit of hectic. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do?
Right. So, it's so Ben, right?
Exactly.
That seems like it. Wasn't there gifts that were sent to his home last year or the year before and back to Pittsburgh?
He left without them. Yeah, I think he left them there and had to go back or something.
Had to go back, and that's so funny.
Yeah,
and that's the bustle of all of it. Like there's so much coordination, and especially when you're not at your home, right? You go somewhere else, and he's hours away. He's here on the eastern side of PA versus Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And he's like a legitimate, well, I guess you can't call him a porch pirate because he was legitimately taking his own things, but that could go so wrong.
Right.
Well, taking gifts or packages from someone's porch. So,
right.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's so Ben.
So, just laughing at Bert's comment.
His comment, another Bert, it says, hello, all, a couple minutes late. Must have got caught in a time slip. Haha.
I had a good week too. Christmas was just low key, laid back, which is again, what I like. We spent the day at my dad's house. celebrated with the kids the day before. Um, you know, Christmas Day.
I'm sorry, you've got muffled real quick there.
I leaned away from my microphone again.
How dare you?
So spent the day with Dad and the boys, and that was really nice. But Sunday, I got to go visit a friend of mine from high school. Haven't seen her probably since she graduated, and she was a couple years ahead of me. But in the last year, we've discovered that we have a lot of commonalities when it comes to the spiritual and paranormal world. And we decided to meet for lunch and talk about things. And we sat and talked for 3 hours. Took a nice trip down to Havre de Grace. I've been there maybe once or twice before. I didn't realize how nice a drive it is and how it's a quaint little riverside town. It's pretty cool. So,
Yep.
but that's probably going to turn into an episode down the road. She does some work with past life regression, and I'm really looking forward to setting up a session with her for that. And we're going to trade time back and forth on podcasts. So it'll be fun.
Cool.
So
More to come. That's great.
But that's going to be in the future. So you know where I'm going with this, right, Jamie?
I feel a segue.
So I'm going to start tonight. I want to talk about time slips. I'm going to turn the paranormal lens on something we can't actually see, which is time, right? So imagine walking down a familiar street when, without warning, everything changes. The buildings, the people, even the atmosphere feel wrong, maybe out of place. Or imagine time stretching, slowing, or warping around you. Now, that's what the essence of a time slip is. It's a phenomenon that has puzzled researchers and captivated storytellers for centuries. So where should we start? Maybe with a simple question: what is a time slip? According to Psychology Today, time slips are paranormal episodes during which an individual, or sometimes a group, experiences traveling through time without knowing how or why it occurred. At its core, a time slip is an anomalous experience where someone perceives themselves existing in a different time period, past, or less commonly, future than the present moment. These experiences can range from fleeting glimpses to extended encounters where environment, people, and even technology appear to belong to another era. Now, this isn't just deja vu. It's often described as vivid, immersive, and deeply sensory, a shift in temporal reality itself. As I researched time slips, it became clear that not all experiences fit into a single category. In fact, there appear to be two primary types. The first is temporal displacement. This is the more dramatic and widely discussed form. In these cases, individuals report physically experiencing another time. They may see buildings that no longer exist, encounter people from another era, or briefly interact with a world that shouldn't be there. These slips often happen spontaneously, sometimes tied to specific locations or emotional states. It's as if a veil between two time periods momentarily lifts, or a localized tear forms in the fabric of space-time. The second type is temporal distortion. This isn't about traveling to another era, but about time itself behaving strangely. People report moments when time slows down, speeds up, or appears to stop altogether. Seconds stretch into minutes. Events unfold unnaturally fast. These experiences are often accompanied by a sense of detachment, altered perception, or an eerie stillness, like the universe's clock temporarily malfunctioned. Maybe to truly understand time slips, we should try to define time itself. And that should be easy, right? Well, Merriam-Webster defines time in two key ways. First, as the measurable period during which an action or process exists, what we often call a duration. Second, as a non-spatial continuum measured by events moving from past to present to future. That clears everything up, right? So, as our good friend Ron Iacovetti often says, time is a human construct. As humans, we like to define, measure, and organize everything around us. One rotation of the Earth became a day, but once we noticed cycles of light and dark, we needed smaller divisions. According to ABC Science, which interviewed Dr. Nick Lom, consultant curator of astronomy at the Sydney Observatory, our 24-hour day traces back to the ancient Egyptians. They divided daylight into 10 hours using devices like shadow clocks, then added a twilight hour at the beginning and end. Nighttime was divided into 12 hours based on star observations. These used a system of 36 star groups called decans, which each rising roughly 40 minutes after the last. Tables were created to help people tell time by watching the stars, some of which were even found inside coffin lids, presumably so the dead could also keep track of time. Not sure why, but we won't question it too much. Interestingly, these hours weren't equal. Daytime hours were longer in summer and shorter in winter, with nighttime hours being opposite. Eventually, this evolved into the equal 24-hour day we know, the 24-hour day that we know today. But what about hours and minutes? For that, we can thank the ancient Babylonians. They favored a base 60 numerical system, which is why hours and minutes are divided into 60 segments and why a circle has 360 degrees. Thankfully, we didn't adopt their idea of dividing the day into 364-minute segments called oosh. And I'm equally grateful that Swatch's 1998 attempt at internet time, which split the day into 1,000 beats, each lasting 1 minute and 26.4 seconds, never caught on. Just imagine trying to read that watch. So now that we sort of understand time, let's talk about time slips themselves. Using the scientific method, time slips remain unexplained, and that places them squarely within the realm of parapsychological research. Several theories attempt to explain what might be happening. One familiar idea is residual energy. Much like residual hauntings, this theory suggests that strong emotions or significant events can leave an energetic imprint on a location. These imprints may occasionally replay, allowing people to perceive moments from the past. In the case of time slips, it's almost as if the observer isn't just watching the recording, they're pulled into it. Another explanation leads towards psychological phenomenon. Skeptics argue that memory distortions, stress, vivid imaginations, hallucinations, or misinterpretation of sensory inputs could account for these experiences. However, the consistency of details across independent accounts makes a purely psychological explanation difficult to accept for everyone. Then there's quantum physics, with its concept of superposition and entanglement. Some researchers wonder if consciousness itself can momentarily tune into a different point in space-time, or if time is far more fluid than we perceive. This idea often overlaps with multidimensional reality theories, which suggest we may be glimpsing parallel timelines or alternate realities. If every choice creates a new path, perhaps those paths occasionally intersect. Another possibility comes from general relativity and space-time curvature. Einstein showed us that space-time can bend. Theoretical structures like wormholes or closed time-like curves could at least mathematically allow movement between different points in time. Finally, there's the block universe theory. This view proposes that past, present, and future all exist simultaneously within a four-dimensional structure. Under this model, a time slip isn't travel, it's perception. A brief accidental glimpse into another section of the block that already exists. It's a difficult concept to wrap your head around, but an intriguing one nonetheless. So this covers several possibilities when it comes to temporal displacement. What about temporal distortion? Why does time sometimes feel like it slows down, speeds up, or stops altogether? One explanation comes from neuroscience and psychology. According to Psychology Today and research who study perception and memory, temporal distortion often occurs during moments of heightened emotion, fear, stress, awe, or extreme focus. In high adrenaline situations, the brain takes in far more sensory information than usual. That increased intake makes the moment feel longer when we remember it, even though time itself never actually changed. In other words, the brain doesn't slow time down, it records more of it. I can relate to this from my own technical work experience. In analog audio recording, especially on 2-inch tape, multiple recording heads capture information across the width of a tape. When the tape runs at a higher speed, it records more detail and higher quality, but it also uses more tape. If you then play that recording back at the original slower speed, everything sounds stretched out and slowed down. Now apply that idea to reported experiences of temporal distortion. During moments of fear, shock, or intense focus, it may feel as though time itself has slowed down because our minds are recording more detail, like running the tape faster. When we play back the memory, the experience feels longer, deeper, and more vivid than our normal moments in our lives. Neuroscientist Dr. David Eagleman, who has extensively studied time perception, explains that the brain doesn't measure time like a clock. Instead, it reconstructs time based on memory density. The more information recorded during an event, the longer that event feels in retrospect. That's why accidents, near misses, and life-threatening moments are so often described as happening in slow motion, which sort of makes sense. But here's where it becomes interesting for time slip research. Many people who report temporal distortions also describe environmental changes, unusual silence, altered lighting, missing sounds, or feeling of being out of sync with everything around them. These elements go beyond internal perception and raise the question, are we only experiencing a neurological effect, or are there more moments the first step toward, or are these moments the first step towards something more, something that under the right conditions could become a full time slip? Another factor may be altered states of consciousness. Studies published in the journals such as Frontiers in Psychology suggest that meditation, disassociation, and sensory deprivation, fatigue, and even deep concentration can disrupt the brain's internal timing mechanism. When attention is turned inwards, it becomes hyper-focused. The brain's normal sense of temporal flow can fragment. From a psychological standpoint, changes in neurotransmitters also play a role. Dopamine, which regulates attention and expectation, have been shown to influence how we perceive time. According to research cited by Scientific American, increased dopamine levels can cause time to feel as though it's speeding up, while decreased levels can make it feel slower or stretched. Then there are environmental and physical theories that move beyond psychology. Some physicists speculate that strong electromagnetic fields, geological stress zones, or gravitational anomalies could influence human perception. While there is no direct evidence that these factors alter time itself, researchers studying the anomalous experiences note that many temporal distortion reports occur in specific locations, often the same places associated with hauntings, UFO sightings, or other high strangeness phenomenon. This brings us to more speculative ideas. In theoretical physics, time is not necessarily constant everywhere. Einstein's theory of general relativity demonstrates that time can dilate under extreme conditions, such as high gravity or velocity. While we aren't experiencing black hole level gravity, some researchers wonder if localized space-time fluctuations, however small, could subtly affect human perception under the right conditions. So whether temporal distortion is the result of brain chemistry, altered consciousness, environmental factors, or something we don't yet understand, one thing remains clear. Our experience of time is far less stable than we like to believe. And if time itself can bend, at least in our perception, then maybe a full time slip isn't as impossible as it sounds. So that's a lot of theory with some speculation thrown in for good measure. So, but what about some experiences? There are several things that have been documented, and I'm going to share a couple of them because we didn't want to turn this into a Steve Dills episode and go 2 hours. But I'm going to share a couple of them, and I'm going to share some personal experiences from two friends. One who said she has never been asked before, so she'd never shared this information. So, first time putting this out there. The first experience I want to talk about goes back to 1901, and it is referred to as the Moberly Jourdain incident. On August 10th, 1901, Charlotte Ann Moberly and Eleanor Frances Jourdain were walking through the gardens near the Petit Trianon at the Palace of Versailles in France when they reported a sudden and unsettling change in their surroundings. According to later accounts, the atmosphere appeared altered, the lighting felt unusual, and the area was unusually quiet, and the people they encountered did not resemble the contemporary visitors. They described individuals wearing clothing that seemed consistent with the late 18th century and not the early 20th. Both women reported sensations of dizziness, detachment, and unreality, describing the environment as artificial or stage-like. They believed they had experienced a form of temporal displacement, concluding that the setting corresponded to the period surrounding the French Revolution. In 1911, they published their experiences anonymously under the pseudonyms Elizabeth Morrison and Frances Lamont in a book titled An Adventure. In the book, they suggested that what they had experienced may have been a residual replay or an impression connected to August 10th, 1792, the day that Tuileries Palace was stormed, making a decisive collapse of the French monarchy. The case gained further attention because several details described in An Adventure, including a small footbridge, specific path alignments, and features of the garden layout, were later shown to correspond with historical maps and records from the late 18th century. Many of these features no longer existed by 1901 and were not commonly available to the normal population. They weren't printed in guidebooks or anything like that. So the Moberly Jourdain incident remains one of the most frequently cited historical cases in time slip research, often referred in discussions of temporal displacement, residual environment memory, and altered states of perception. From France, we're going to move a little bit closer to home, and we've talked about this one before. This is the Gettysburg College elevator incident. Late one night at Gettysburg College, two administrators were finishing up paperwork on the 4th floor of Pennsylvania Hall, one of the campus's oldest buildings. When the work was done, they headed to the elevator, ready to go home. The corridors were dark, the few lights flickering. They stepped into the elevator, one pressing the button for the 1st floor. But as the elevator creaked downward, it didn't stop at the 1st floor. It continued to the basement. When the doors opened, the basement they expected was gone. In its place was a historical Civil War-era operating room. Wounded soldiers lay on every inch of the floor, some crying, some had passed away, some pale from blood loss. Blood coated the walls and pooled across the floor. Medical personnel in period clothing moved among the patients, performing surgery with bone saws, struggling to save lives amid the chaos. One orderly even seemed to be carrying a pile of amputated limbs. The administrators were horrified. They screamed, pressed the elevator buttons frantically, and tried to escape. One of the soldiers turned toward them, eyes wide and pleading, as if begging for help across the centuries. The doors finally closed, and the elevator carried them to the 1st floor. Everything appeared normal again. Terrified, they reported the incident to the security officer, and the officer on duty later described their state as shaken and pale. He escorted them back to the elevator, pressed the basement button, and found nothing unusual. Now, I don't know about you, but if that had been me, I don't know that I would have gotten back on that elevator and been taken to the basement. The basement seemed like the normal place it had been, dusty, cluttered with file cabinets, cardboard boxes, and leftover dormitory items. The two women never explained what they had seen, how they experienced it, and the elevator had returned to its mundane mechanical rhythm, but the memory of the scene, vivid and horrifying, stayed with them forever. Now, here's an example of a temporal distortion that happened at Booby's Brewery to a friend of mine. And I'm recalling this because she told me about it several years ago, and I didn't get a chance to catch up with her about it on this episode, so I'm recalling what we had talked about. She was investigating on the art gallery level, and that's the floor between the first floor and the catacombs. She and one or two other investigators were conducting a session while the rest of the group explored upstairs. After what felt like just a few minutes, they decided to head upstairs to rejoin everyone. When she arrived, the others asked if anything had happened while they were down there. Confused, she asked what they meant. They explained that she had been on the art gallery level for a long time, about 30 to 40 minutes. She insisted she had only been there a few minutes. None of the group had any recollection of the time that time had supposedly passed, leaving them all puzzled by the sudden distortion of time. So, my final two stories are from another friend of mine, Jenny Colucci. These are her accounts in her own words. The first instant was in my current bathroom of my 1920 home. I opened the medicine cabinet, and suddenly everything looked completely different. I was holding a wooden brush in my hand that resembled a small scrub brush. The bristles were hay-like, and everything turned a strange color. Not black and white, but everything was beige and black. In my head, I was absolutely searching for a powder with which to brush my teeth. I had no knowledge of toothpaste or anything like it. It was like I was just very routinely getting the powder to brush my teeth. I found a metal container on the shelf containing the tooth powder and placed it on the brush. It had a taste of chalk and bleach, which seemed perfectly normal to me. Suddenly, I looked down and I saw myself holding a red tube of Colgate toothpaste and my electric toothbrush, and I had come back to the present time. So that's pretty interesting. She said, it was very unsettling for a long time for me, and if I'm honest, I was nervous for a week opening that cabinet door again. The second instance was a very similar, only this time I was sitting at a table when literally the world in front of my eyes became a different world, completely as if someone had pulled a film screen down in front of my eyes. And I was actually moving this time through a type of market. This time, the colors were normal. There were flowers for sale, and bread and other wares, and people riding horses. I was walking through the market, and as I looked down at the ground, I saw I was wearing a long skirt that had small green flowers on it and scuffed boots on my feet. I saw myself kick the skirt out as I walked, and people passed by me wearing clothes that looked normal to me, but now I know they were maybe from the late 1800s. And I was holding some type of basket and greeting people when just as suddenly it was as if I blinked and I was back at my kitchen table. That was incredibly real, as if I was actually there, not like a vision. That's the difference, I think, between feeling as if something is in your head and feeling like you've actually been somewhere else. And that's where she wraps things up. Now, both of these experiences share something important. They weren't dreams. They weren't imaginings. And they weren't distant memories or vague impression. In each moment, the world didn't feel observed. It felt inhabited. In the bathroom, the act was just ordinary and automatic. No fear, no confusion, just routine. Until the present snapped back into place. In the second experience, the shift was wider, more immersive. There was movement, interaction, texture, weight, a skirt brushing against legs, boots against the ground, a basket in hand. And in both cases, there was no awareness that anything was wrong until the moment had ended. That may be the most unsettling part of these accounts. During the experience, nothing felt unusual. The mind accepted the environment completely, as if it belonged there. It wasn't like watching a scene play out. It was like stepping into a life already in progress. Whether these moments were examples of temporal distortions, brief displacements in time, or something happening entirely within the way consciousness interacts with reality, they challenge one basic assumption we all carry: that time is stable, fixed, and always moving forward. If even for a few moments that assumption can break, If the present can thin or overlap, then time may not be the solid structure we believe it to be. It may be layered, fragile, and far more subjective than we're comfortable admitting. And maybe that's why these experiences linger, not because of what's seen, but because of what they suggest, that the line between now and then isn't always as clear as we think. So that leaves us a little bit to talk about. Let me cite some sources before we move on. First one is Psychology Today, US/blog/where physics meets psychology /202201 / time slips the multiverse and you. www.abc.net.au /science/articles/2011. And there's a whole bunch of things. I can put it up. That one's going to be hard to read. Eagleman.com /time in the brain or what's happening in the Eagleman lab. www.scientificamerican.com /article /time slows down when we see something memorable. www.nature.com /articles /S41598-022-25573.9 and www.michellegargulio.com blog the time traveling Moberly Jourdain incident. Also Gettysburg College reference materials as well. So that's what I got to say. What do you guys think?
Well, before we get too far, let me catch up on a couple comments that dropped in while you were discussing. So the first comes from Heather. I thought this was interesting because it's a different perspective. But dogs can't tell time by the by the way, but they have a way of knowing time. It's by scent. When you walk out your door, your scent is strong. As our time goes by, our scent gets weaker to the dog. They know how long you've been gone by the strength of our scent. So dogs' time is completely different to ours. And my dog always knows when it's dinner time as well. My dog always knows when it's walk time. So they can tell time. I'm swearing it.
They can, but
yes,
but if you change up the habit, like my dog knows when somebody gets home, they're going to go out. But
yes.
if we leave for 10 minutes and come back, they expect that's time to go out.
Yes, agreed. It's a routine.
So that one's interesting.
It is. I thought so too. And then Bert has a comment as well here. There we go. Sometimes I feel I am living in a time slip, ahead of the time I should be. Almost like I'm remembering a past life and often feel I don't belong in this time. Now, I want to comment on that as well. So I have had this experience for as long as I can remember where I feel like something has just happened that has already happened to me before. And I think that relates to what Bert's saying as well. Never having been to a place, never having had an experience that occurred, but I feel like I've already done it somehow before. And it's a little off-putting and a little, just weird. Not a time slip because nothing has changed to me.
Right.
But I feel like I've already done it somewhere before.
So are you and is that what people do you consider that what people would consider a deja vu experience?
I think that's the term I want to use, but I don't know that it's the correct way of saying it. But yes.
Because I've experienced that as well. It's like I've been here, I've done this. That's
I've experienced deja vu a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or I will have I can't call it a premonition because I don't not
because you're insensitive or unsensitive.
Yeah,
I'm unsensitive. Yes, exactly. We've established that. But I will have the sense of something, like a visual of something, and then somewhere down the line it happens. So not quite the same as I just described the moment I would be in, but at some point, whatever that is comes to be. And I'll be honest, there are times when I'm sure I'm dreaming,
Mm-hmm.
So that's weird. But there are times when I'm very vividly awake as well, but I have that sense of something, and then later it comes to be as
Mm-hmm.
visioned or as perceived. So, and that to me that kind of ties to a lot of the temporalness of this. The movement of time or the reality of time.
Mm-hmm.
It there may be curves, and how you take two roads parallel and they both curve the same way. You see the other people. You can see the other road that's right there.
Right.
A highway and a secondary road that are side by side. The old road, the new road. I could see people in their car right there. And they could see me. So what would that wouldn't be all that far. That we're not far apart. So maybe they come together at some like there's an on ramp or an off ramp, either way, I guess,
Right.
where the roads connect, or the lines connect in the sense of time. This feels very Marvel universe right now.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it does. Yeah. I mean,
Right?
if because I mean, it is literally called a multiverse theory.
Mhm.
The one that intrigues me, and I've spent a lot of time discussing this with my dad, is the block theory,
Okay.
that everything that has happened and will happen has happened already,
Right.
and
Okay.
just in a layer of that, and uh, you know, and we can move between those layers sometimes unintentionally and see things, which it's just that one's mind boggling. Like it intrigues me. I just don't know how I can justify it in my head, but it's not really for me to justify, I guess. So,
Well, I'm going to go off a little bit here. Bear with me,
mhm.
but they're one of my favorite authors is a guy named Robert Jordan. He unfortunately he's passed away now, but he wrote a very long epic series called The Wheel of Time, sci-fi fantasy series. I recommend it. It's great. It's an Amazon that's done they've made it into a show. Not quite as good, sadly, but still has promise. But the basically the gist of this is the wheel of time it turns, and every time it turns, something reoccurs. So all the things that need to happen for it to come back to center occur in the turning of it, but when it comes back, it's a reset, and it all occurs again, and then time goes through the circle of the wheel, and then it comes back to circle of the center, and it starts again and again
Hmm.
and again, and that is an eternal process. And I can see that being part of everything that's ever happened. Everything's been done.
Right.
Um, it makes sense. I think, to me at least, I can get that.
Hmm.
It's fascinating though.
Hmm.
When does it restart, or when does it reoccur?
Right.
What's the catalyst? That's the part that really makes me curious.
Hmm. Or does it reoccur differently for everybody because they're experiencing?
Sure, well, it's just like a paranormal investigation, right?
Right. Hmm.
We all can have in the same space at the same time in the same environment and have uniquely different experiences there.
Hmm. I was really surprised how much, as I was researching this, evidence was coming. Because when we do investigations or when we do research for things like this, a lot of times we're looking at sources that aren't psychology based, they're not scientifically based. But most of the stuff I was reading from was some sort of scientific based journal, magazine. Like that really surprised me. I thought, oh, time slips. Not going to find any scientific material on this, and it was the majority of it was. So it's something that has been researched quite a bit by the scientific community.
Are you saying there's not a lot of white papers in the paranormal world? Is that what you're saying? That's what I heard.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, you're not wrong, I guess. But well, and that's the beauty when because we're always we're trying to build facts, right? We
Hmm.
are trying to do this scientifically, and that is based on fact. And it is so hard sometimes because so much of what we do is anecdotal because there's not an opportunity to always capture the moment
Right.
with some method of whether it be an audio, video, or whatnot. Um, and therefore it is truly anecdotal. So it's hard to take that to be a fact,
Right.
and
But
it doesn't hold its water very well.
right. But this goes back to our discussion we had with Ron and where we talked about we're basing everything on physical science research. It has to fit into that that scientific method, and blah blah blah. But there's so many different types of science out there that explore other things that we're not given accreditation to.
Sure.
And that's, I think we need to start exploring some of the other types of science, and letting them come through, and and not control, but have an equal part and equal say in things, if that makes sense.
It does.
So I found the some of the references to the temporal slowing down of time, like that. I found that really interesting about what the brain does in high stress situations, and I never thought about it, but it really does make a lot of sense. And why, like when you're in an accident, or like that time. I mean, things seem to happen in slow motion. We've all been there. It's like, but we still can't change it, even though it feels like it's happening in slow motion. But it makes so much sense. Your brain is processing so much, it remembers it in a different way, which begs the question: are we experiencing things, or are we just experiencing memories all the time? Are we remembering what
Right. Maybe it's because we're in a matrix. Maybe.
What's that? We're in a matrix.
Maybe that's it. Yeah.
So
I'm sorry, Kirstin, I cut you off. I apologize.
No, you're good. No, I was agreeing. This is a subject that's really fascinating to me. I honestly would love to experience a time slip. Like, yeah, I've had moments of deja vu and stuff, but like to almost feel like going back in time with some memories, I would love to experience that.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and I agree, especially with as much as I like history, to be able to jump back to a certain, and I don't want to travel, time travel, but just to jump back for a second and experience it would be cool, or a few minutes, but I don't want to go there. So
well, there's a lot of stories about time travel, right? And the idea is grand, because you get to be in the moment of all the key things of history. But in the same way, you don't fit there. So that idea that was brought into some of the earlier part you were discussing, especially the early story of the time slip in France, that sounds like it's that visitor who doesn't belong there. So I mean, this is gonna, I'm getting weird here. Bear with me, but weirder than usual. But maybe there is somewhere in our future there where we figure it out, and someone is coming back, or people are coming back at times and popping in places where they don't belong, and perhaps they're trying to fit in but missing where they're supposed to go. So the out of place people, who are French Revolution versus the early 1900s, they were aiming for there, but they dialed wrong.
right.
They landed in 30 years sooner, earlier than they intended to be, or something in that sense. That's fascinating. I mean, that's speculation, and it's very loose to even say that. But what if that is the case, and there is some advantage we learn later in life, in the world, in time. There we go, using time as a reference, but that's fascinating.
And I'm sure you've all seen the images, pictures of like an older picture that there looks like there's a cell phone in the picture.
Yeah,
like
that always pops up.
And these days it's really hard to tell if that's an AI generated thing, or if it's a real picture or not. So I don't put a lot of credit to anything like that. But has it happened? Like, there's plenty of stories out there. It's just it's mind boggling, and it's really cool.
I agree. And I'll pull this in here quick. Bert said he was going to say Matrix as well. So
Uh-huh.
I'm not wrong. Bert agrees.
So I noticed that nobody said road trip on this one though.
Road trip.
It's more of a time trip, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of road trips, so I kept this kept coming to my mind as well. So there was a point in my younger working career where I had a retail job. I was a manager. I had to go to the bank every day. And the bank was one exit away, so I had to literally drive like a mile down the highway, hop off, take a left, go to the bank. Right. So in doing that, I would find myself often two exits away before I realized where I was. Now, I had every good intention, and I would say to myself, "You have to get off this exit." And
Uh-huh.
by the time I got to that exit, I was passing it. And that's not the same to say, but in the sense of being like we do to ourselves sometimes get distracted. Like there's so much other things that are we're pulling through,
Hmm.
processing, all the stuff that we are, and all of a sudden something's past us.
Hmm.
So I don't know where that lands here, but in the sense of high stress or
Right.
distractions, things like that. We have more distractions now than ever before,
Hmm.
right? And this was early '90s versus now, so 30 years ago and whatnot. Um, not nearly as many things. Maybe my favorite song was on the radio. Who knows?
Right.
But it happened time and time and time again. It
Right.
happened once a week easily for probably a year.
Right.
Uh,
Well,
yeah,
and the human mind is not set up to multitask.
Mhm.
And we try to do that all the
Yeah,
time, but it's like if you think about it, you can only handle one task at a time. So when you're driving, if you're thinking about something else, driving past an exit is really easy to do. And is so that one I can sort of see. But yeah, like we're just not set up to multitask.
yeah. Well, people say they're good at multitasking. I say back, it means you're good at not doing two things well.
Hmm.
Can't do it.
Yep.
I agree.
So yeah, I found Jenny's stories interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, most people don't get one experience, and here she's got two. That's
Yeah.
an embarrassment of riches, if you will,
yeah.
um, in a really interesting way.
Hmm. And I'm not sure which one of her stories intrigues me more. I think probably the second one where she actually like felt like all the was so involved in walking and felt the skirt, and that just seems pretty cool.
That one's
Well,
definitely my favorite out of the two.
they both have a physical sensation, though. Like there's
Hmm.
touch to the skirt, but there's the
The
brushing
taste,
powder.
right?
The taste that you mentioned, bleach and another agent,
Chalk, yeah.
chalk. Sorry, yeah, and that's what it would have been.
Hmm.
That is to have that exact sense, in it. That's texture,
Right,
much more so than just being present. That's immersion
right,
into the moment. That's really really cool.
yeah. So yeah, it sounds like we all need to go visit Jenny's house. So maybe there's our road
Yes.
trip.
Maybe,
We're all going to show up at Jenny's house. She's going to love that when she listens to this later.
Oh, perfect.
So-
and we'll
and
call
Heather,
first. Don't worry,
yeah,
we'll call.
and Heather did say road trip as it was coming over, and she said I was typing it.
Give you credit.
So so yeah, any other thoughts you want to talk about on this?
It's a cool subject. It really is, and I don't know that we're really done with it, like
No.
because there's so much more to explore. And
Hmm.
to be fair, the Gettysburg piece we talked about that when we did the Gettysburg episode
Right.
earlier this year. That was one of the key things. That is still one of the key things of the experiences documented at the battlefield.
Hmm.
There's the premise that there are spirits out on the field itself, but this was a real thing in a building with not someone there to experience the place. They were there. People were at work.
Hmm.
They were just clocking out for the day. They no intention of
Yeah.
engaging in anything at all. No heightened sense. Nothing.
Yeah.
Normal day. 5:01. I'm out the door.
Yep.
This
I
happened.
I just imagine. I mean, Jamie, my mom worked at Gettysburg College, and
Mhm.
I can imagine my mom have that happening to her, and I don't know what she would have done.
They said nope.
So it's interesting what we learn about our parents when when they're no longer here to talk to. I found out my mom had a lot of experiences and we never talked about it. And there were things she believed that I had no idea about. I wish I had known earlier.
Yep.
So
I agree.
she always knew what I was doing though, so I should have had a clue.
Well, sometimes that's his motherly instinct, right? And it is. They just know when you're goofing off.
Yeah.
Because you're goofing off all the time.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Anyway.
We've all been there. That's cool. That's very cool.
Uh,
All right, well, yeah. If Kirstin, anything to add?
I don't think so. This was a lot, and it was fascinating. I really kind of want to start looking a bit more into some of the theories.
we should have warned you. Yeah. This is one of those things. The more you hear, the more you just have to dig.
Yeah.
I want to dig into this one more.
A lot of adds, not a lot of subtractions here. So,
I've always kind of had some of a fascination with time slip. So,
cool.
Yeah.
All right.
No, we've done more than one episode of a topic before, so we can always come back.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
So, well, instead of coming back, let's move forward, Jamie. Let's talk about next week.
Sure. Yeah, I'll take this. So,
all right.
Next week's episode, it's titled "No Escape: The Spirits of Spike Island," and Spike Island is in County Cork, Ireland. I'm not going to give too much away here, but it is a fascinating facility. And hope to do justice to the immense history that it has and all of the activity it's had through the years. So more to come next week.
Cool.
And then after that, there's a list of starting with the hauntings of Hampton Court. That'll be Kirstin. A listener sort of submission, I think a guest submission is probably the right way to say this, where Chad covered on the 20th covering Gavel and Ghosts, Paranormal Cases and the Law. It came from Megan Baum from the Whispers in the Dark presentation at Gretna Playhouse back in October that we covered. But she has a law degree, and we just chatted about it, and it became an inspiration for an episode. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to take on the 27th the glowing people of Barranco de Badajoz over in Italy. And behind that, Kirstin has the man, the myth, the Mothman. So. Woo! He's finally making his appearance after all these episodes.
Finally. It just took me.
There was a loose reference under one of the Urban Legend episodes, but not a detailed episode. So it is time. Well past time.
The best scripted.
Yeah. And then we are going to get out and about. It's coming ever closer, guys. We're just 24 hours from January, probably, or finally. So once we get around to January 3rd, it's Friday, we will be down at the Hanover Tavern Paracon, Hanover, Virginia. Hope to see you all there. It is a fantastic event. And it's a big event. It's going to be 2 days, Friday and Saturday, the 30th and 31st. So we won't be there both days. So come and see us. Come and see everybody. Really great event. And tickets are still available. So give them a check out.
Mm-hmm.
And our good friend Steve Dills. And obviously, you found us here tonight via the incredibly live podcast that we do. But if you're catching us afterwards and are more interested in what Jot Nix Paranormal is and does, you can find our website, Jot, which is JOTT -Nix, NYX paranormal.com. So Jot-Nix paranormal.com. You can email us with anything you're interested in talking about, hearing us discuss for you, Paranormal Lens Podcast at gmail.com. And that comes to Chad and I think Kirstin now too, finally. Mm-hmm. So everybody gets it. And, so listener submissions come through that way, comments about episodes, all kinds of stuff. Anything on your mind, feel free to reach out. Give us a touch. And then all of our socials, all of our stuff is available on Linktree, which is linktr.ee and /paranormal lens. You can find all of our good stuff there, including our store. Christmas gifts are past, but birthdays are coming up soon for somebody, So get in there and get some gifts, and help support us. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
There is a cost to all of this, so any bit will help.
Yeah.
We might have another thought for you next week as well on that. So
Yeah, we're working. We're brewing something else.
we're
How's
brewing
that?
something. Yeah, yeah.
It's a good brew.
Nice.
So, well, good.
But like always, thanks, guys. We could sit here and chat with each other. We do often, anyway. But bringing everybody along for the ride is always a lot of fun. The comments that come afterwards, and hopefully the inspiration that we can provide you to go and explore. The topic, in this case, time slips, but anything we discuss. That's what the community is all about. So again, thank you, and look forward to the next time.
Yeah. Kirstin, any final thoughts?
Nope.
All right. Well, then let me wrap it up by saying time slips challenge our understanding of reality, reminding us that the past may not be as distant as we believe. Whether these moments are fractures in time or glimpses meant to be seen, they leave us questioning what truly surrounds us. As always, stay alert, stay respectful, and stay curious. Happy New Year, and we'll see you next year. Good night, everybody.